Stories related personally by Rabbi Glukowski or Gluchovsky, the Rav in, I'm forgetting where he is, Rehovot. So Rabbi Glukowski says as follows. I remember this Fabrengen very well. It was Yud Aleph Shvat, Shabbos Yud Aleph Shvat, Tavshim Memhei, 1985. And the Rebbe announced then by the Fabrengen that he's giving money to the Shluchim for both their personal matters and the shlichus. And he went on to say this is not two things, but it's one thing, obviously, because that's the kavanah is, right? One's personal life is shlichus. And then he said he's not just giving to the formal shluchim, but the shluchim. Means ones that were appointed by the Chassidic Rebbe or whatever it is, but even the shluchim's shluchim. So he says, I was at the Fabrengen, I'm against quoting him, and he said, wow, he was really uplifted from, what the Rebbe is saying, the Rebbe is giving. I remember the checks came, my friend, but you'll hear the story. So on Sunday, he says, he goes into Maskiris, and they said, sorry, it's not for you. It's only for the shluchim of Melach, of the Merkaz and Yonei Chinuch, meaning the heads of the various countries or states. They were sent by Merkaz and Yonei Chinuch. But it's and that's not the Shluchim and Yisrael that was sent. That they didn't go on the Merkaz, so they're not getting. So he said to them, but the Rebbe said it goes to not just the Shluchim, but the Shluchim. And he says, I don't know why Fogelman from Worcester, who wasn't sent. Also, I guess he's not under the Melech. I don't know who he's under. He went straight from the Chassidic Rebbe, but they said it's only under this organization. He also didn't get Shlichter Worcester. So they didn't answer me. He said, sorry, this is it. Goodbye. He said, I felt very, in the Filas Ruach, I felt very downcast. So I came back to Yisrael. I went to my Mashpia, the Bzusha, and I told him what happened. I said, I heard from the Rebbe himself say this, and I think the Rebbe wants to give this Ashpah Gashmis to all the Shluchim. And wherever the powers that be in the office have their... So the Zusha listened to me, and he said, you have to write to the Rebbe. Now here's where the story, tangentially, and he said, he heard, from his Rosh Yeshiva, before he became a Lubavitcher, I think this is in Branovich, Rabbi Chanan Wasserman. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, my friends, was one of the greatest Goinim of the previous generation. A gewaldige Gaon, his Sfarim are learned widely in all the yeshivas. He used to say, this has reminded me, that our job is not to be machadish. It's just completely a departure from the rest of kind of the non-Chassidic world. In a sense, our job is not to be machadish, to come up with novel insights, but to understand the Rishonim. So his whole Oifen HaLimbud is not, looking for a novel chiddush, but depth to understand. And it's the mainstay in many yeshivas, Kovetz Shiurim. Quoted by, when you're learning in depth, I should just tell you that he was killed by the Nazis, by the Lithuanian Nazis. They rounded up them 11 Rabbonim, and they were shot. That before that, he wrote, I guess, hastily a letter, and then the Kudah, I have to see it again, but the Kudah of the letter is that also to the ones who were round up with him, they were going al Kiddush Hashem as a korban, and we have to see to it that there shouldn't be a korban is invalidated by the wrong machshava. The kohen has the wrong machshava, bringing the korban, he's going to eat it later or in the wrong place, pigel. So the korban is possible that chas v'shalom should not be any. He's referring to, I guess, like resistance. Why me? the schus that we have, he writes the schus, to Mekayim, the greatest mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, not personally, he says, for our fellow Yidden, that we should be their korbanos. He saw where this was going. It's 1941, I think, the early years of the war, but still the Holocaust had begun already. And that's how we have to go to our death. You just imagine who this person was. I should also tell you that he was offered in his youth, he was a big Gaon, and many times to be a big Rav in Moscow even, at that time, the greatest covet, and he declined it, but in the end he founded a yeshiva where Reb Zusha learned. The beautiful PS to the story is, the yeshiva was destroyed by the Nazis. It was transplanted to America, and if I'm not mistaken, Chicago, but then a kind of, whatever reason, that fell apart. You know where it ended up? Oid El Chanan Chabad, which is a tremendous thing. The yeshiva in Los Angeles is called Oid El Chanan Chabad, after Bachanan Wasserman. It merged formally his yeshiva in Lithuania, then it moved to America, and then became merged with Chabad in California. I never spoke of this. I remember the time of Givaldi Kesicha. It was a big thing, of course, that a Litvish yeshiva and a Chabad yeshiva, as it were, merged. But you can see a glimpse, a little bit of who he was, and how this was a very, very wonderful thing. I remember when yeshiva started, Rabbi Kessler was from the first shluchim, Bochrim. It was a group, they sent top Bochrim from 770. One of them was also Rabbi Zirkin, who has the yeshiva here. It's called Menachem, it's called, yeah. He was also one of the shluchim there. They went for a year or two. And Keren Menachem. So they went there, and the point was, it was a big chiddush, such a yeshiva, and the kavanah of the yeshiva was, well, to spread Chassidus and so on, ultimately, but how? Through showing that Lubavitch is Lomdus and Nigla, faithful to Rebbe Chanan, close brackets. Back to the story now, back to Mendel, who's saying, to Rebbe Zusha, he feels that everyone wants to give the shluchim. So Rebbe Zusha said you should write, and then he quotes from his teacher, Bachanan Wasserman. He used to say, besser zu sein a Scheite, than zu sein an Apikoros. Better be a fool than a smart heretic. So he says to him, so write to the Rebbe. He said, if that's not what the Rebbe wants, so you're a fool. But it's a shtus, so you are a shtus. But if this is not the kavanah, then you have to ask. So it's a good word. Don't be embarrassed. Better be a fool and ask than keep it in your own head and come to your own conclusions, and who knows where you end up. End of the story is, I wrote to the Rebbe, he says, Rabbi Glukowski, and that year before Pesach, the Rebbe sent through Rabbi Ephraim Wolf, who was the head of Tzachon Yisrael, a check for all of the shluchim for the Yom Tov needs, and so this continued every Erev Pesach and every Erev Sukkot, all the years till Gimel Tammuz. And it went also to all the shluchim b'chlal in the world. Many lessons from the story, huh? Okay. Have a wonderful day, everybody.